Hey, hi everyone.
Hi, everybody. As we are waiting for people to come in, we're just going to go to the Jamboard here and start sharing how we are feeling today.
Well, Tanya and Jessica, that's what I want to know. How are you guys feeling today?
We're good. It's getting pretty chilly here. We'll have space towards the end to talk about the updates that you guys have received and what some of the next steps would be.
So you guys are in Canada, right?
Yes.
So have you been hearing all the noise from your neighbors down under?
Yes, we Canadians tend to follow the U.S. election much more closely than our election, truthfully. We definitely watched the debate that happened a couple of days ago and the news about the president having COVID. Yes, last night. So.
I understand that we're going to keep the volume down in our next conversation.
And they're going to put them some new rules as well, where I wonder how that's going to go.
Yeah, I'm going to be curious. Because obviously it hasn't worked for us because I'm really loud myself, so.
Okay, for those just joining us, I just put the link in the chat again, just because it won't pop up till after you're joined. So we're just starting with our Jamboard and using some visuals to best describe how we're feeling on this Friday.
Okay, let me see how this works.
Hi, Lucia. Welcome. I just put a link in the chat. We're just kind of starting with a quick little how are we feeling with the visuals today. And then I think we're going to get started in a minute. Everyone finish up with that.
I'm not sure who's drawing on the Jamboard, but yours still says pretty good. For
I was just going to say, that's probably the most creative expressions we've had on Jamboard in a while. There's quite a mixed bag of feelings right now. Does anyone want to share a little bit about why they put their name or they drew what they drew for today, just before we kind of get into the next step? Okay. Well, it's great to just to kind of take the moment to kind of just check in and see where everyone's at. I don't think we're going to be here for the full hour today. I know it's Friday. There's lots going on in the world right now. Things are busy. I can't believe it's October already. I'm not really sure where this year has gone. Just a few things we wanted to kind of cover today. We're going to kind of talk about the Creative Cloud donation program and just kind of a last call around that. And then the two areas of discussion we really wanted to talk with you guys and kind of allow some space for you guys to share peer-to-peer would be some learning moments from your programs, as well as maintaining online engagement and what that looked like and how that's going to keep moving forward over the coming months and even into 2021. And then as Tanya mentioned, just for those who joined a little bit after, we will give some space at the end of our call today just to kind of talk about that email that everyone received in regards to the project status update. But first, we thought it would be nice just to kind of check in and really just highlight all the great work that you guys are doing, and then we can kind of wrap up with more of the admin after. So with that being said, the Creative Cloud donation program is still open for a few more weeks. We are going to be closing the application around October 15th. So what we really wanted to talk about today is that if you guys have any other community partners or organizations within your immediate network that you feel qualify and are eligible to receive this software donation as a great tool for their own programming, we'd love for you to share this opportunity with them. They do have to hold a nonprofit status. So I believe in the United States that is a 501c3. All of the organizations as part of the program who've received it in the States, they have that status. Now in Canada and other countries, it's a little bit different nonprofit status-wise. We have different levels and registration. So if there's any questions around that, feel free to connect them with me directly. We are looking for organizations who provide digital media programming. You don't necessarily have to be a full arts, creative education organization. If that organization has a specific program in place that delivers that type of work around creativity and expression, they're more than eligible to apply. And then we are looking that they do have some virtual means to deliver their programming. Here in Toronto, at least, and most of Canada now, we are kind of in an upswing in numbers. So a lot of programming isn't really being held in person. It's kind of a mixture between online and sporadic in person, like when needed. But even schooling here is kind of looking at that online model. So we are kind of encouraging organizations to keep following that path. Does anyone have any other questions around who might be eligible or just kind of about this program in general before I move on?
Jessica.
Hi.
Go ahead, Yarina.
Oh, I do have a question. So do we also need to apply? Because this is for next year, right? We don't need to apply?
Yes, so all of you guys are good. I will double check. If I haven't already renewed you earlier in 2020, if your renewal is coming up, I'll make sure that's kind of taken care of before the end of the year. So this is mainly just to kind of keep onboarding as many organizations as possible before the end of November, because there will be a transition with this program as well. But currently we are still kind of administering these grants. But I will make sure that everyone on the call today and part of your cohort is set up and that you are good before that transition takes place.
Okay, can you share in the chat the link so we can send it to these other organizations? And I know I probably could find it, but I'm sure you have it easy for them to say, hey, if you're eligible, go ahead and apply right away. Okay.
Perfect. I can put the application link in the chat, and then after our session today, when we send the recording, we have a little like an infographic that has these points that are you can share directly as an image with the organizations as well as the link. And Tanya's already got it in there. Perfect. But yeah, we'll make sure we follow up with that infographic so it's easy for you guys to share. Okay.
Question to Joanna?
I was just going to mention that thanks, Jessica, for putting that call out there. I can think of 6 or 7 other Boys and Girls Clubs that run Youth Arts Initiative programs involving digital media. So I can put you in contact with the contact person who oversees all of that. So one person instead of like 7 or 8 different clubs can discuss that opportunity. So thanks, that would be wonderful.
Perfect. And just for everyone else as well, if you want to give them the youth media email directly and they want to contact me, I'm more than happy to answer any questions via email or to hop on calls with these other organizations, just so you can share the information, but don't feel like you have to answer their questions. Please send them directly my way and I can make sure that they get what they need. Okay. All right, so our first area we really wanted to talk about today is learning moments from transitioning to online programming. So with you guys being in cohort 3, it looks actually very different than what our cohort 1 actually went through. When they were approved for their project, they actually all submitted in-person programming, and we had to work closely with them to kind of transition to really go with the flow and kind of really acknowledge and respect those physical and health guidelines that were really put into place at the beginning of the year. But with that being said, you all also had to transition your programming from in-person to online or have a bit of a hybrid model. And so we were kind of hoping we could speak a little bit and have you guys reflect on what that process was like. So, how was this transition for you and your team and your youth? And are there any significant learning moments, highlights or surprises that you'd like to share with the rest of your peers, and just kind of reflect on what that's looked like as we've progressed through this year?
I'd be happy to share. So first of all, I got to say that the grant provided kind of lit a fire under us. So thank you for that. That really motivated us. It's like, okay, we got this grant. We got to do something now. So that was really crucial, I think, because we want to look good in your eyes. So that was an opportunity for us. So for me, it was more of a blending of in-person slash virtual. Initially, it was all virtual, and that was a challenge because what I'm finding out with these teens, that depending on their interest, they have a lot of different communication models. So if they're gamers, they have a game chat place that they go to. If they text, they Instagram. So for me, it was learning all those platforms. So that was challenging for me. It's like, okay, Mr. Alex, meet me over here, or we're usually over here. So, and then trying to convince them, hey, can we just meet in one platform specifically? So there was a lot of that juggling going on initially. Then I notice that they were starving for doing something because everybody felt trapped. So I tried to create an art form, an art project that allowed us to create sort of a mini pod where we can keep our distance and safety and still create together. I tried to involve the community at large by bringing in professional artists to kind of blend in and help us with the project. Then teaching the youth that while we're doing this, we're preparing these projects so that we can adapt it or use the Adobe software. So Photoshop was huge for us because we took a lot of images and then images of the final product, and they had to clean it up and dress it up. That potentially may turn into T-shirts, that kind of thing. And I'm talking specifically about a mural they created. Then we took a lot of video, so it's getting all these video together and try to create a short little story about this whole adventure that we had together. So it was and it still is challenging, but I think with the right folks and the right tools, I think we're on our way to continue this success that I want to call success.
Well, thank you.
That's pretty much for me.
No, thank you for sharing, Alex. It's definitely come up that communication has been a really big, I don't want to say barrier, just kind of an interesting stepping stone for most organizations, because youth today do really use a ton of different platforms. And so trying to find that kind of the right model, even as an organization, taking it global, has kind of reviewed what does that look like when using social media. And so kind of it's good to use things that they're familiar with, but it's also good to still kind of follow policies and guidelines in the sense. So for a few of our projects here, Instagram accounts were created, but like professional Instagram accounts. So it would say like the team member's name and the project they worked on, and it was only used to track, communication that way. But then also, try not to introduce too many new platforms was also kind of really key. Because with school starting back up now and kind of in full swing, it's a lot for them to kind of handle in terms of switching back and forth. But it's great to hear that after, the initial kind of get-go, that everyone was super excited to kind of be engaged and work in the community at large. Would anyone else like to share a reflection on how they transition their programming from in-person to virtual?
Hi, I can share. So I'm Guillermina Zabal. I'm the director of the Media Arts program at SAFE. We are in San Antonio. I would say sort of, I definitely, a lot of the things that Alex is sharing that kind of resonate with us as well. First, yes, receiving the grant was not only, a financial support and help, but it was definitely a big kind of encourage. Also, in fact, the project that we proposed for grant, it shifted a little bit the work that we are doing. And so one thing that was really interesting is that our project is multidisciplinary. So we have 4 different studios, and we used to work, definitely more of an individual track, but having now a goal of a multidisciplinary project, we were able to interconnect the studios virtually much more. So challenging, but at the same time, an opportunity for us and for the students, so they can also learn more about other art disciplines. Definitely, we've had challenges similar to everyone as far as connecting virtually and having the virtual space safe and encouraging students to engage. That's still a challenge, but we're getting there. And I think some of our successes, I guess, is that we just premiered our first virtual performance, and it was very multimedia. So we have theater, music, spoken word, and obviously videos. Everything was online, and that was really good. We finished a series of podcasts as well, a lot of visual work, and we're getting ready to launch our first online platform. It'll be in a couple weeks, and so we're really excited that I think we were able to overcome a lot of the challenges, a lot of the difficulties that I know everyone is facing now, and yet be able to produce quite an interesting work. All the pieces that you'll see in the platform are related to youth reflecting on what's going on now, including the social unrest and youth perspectives on racism. So it's not just life in isolation and COVID, but other issues that have been sort of floating this past 6 months. So yes, I would say we have a lot to cover and learn and improve. But so far, I think we're very happy with the results.
Well, thank you for sharing. It's really wonderful to hear that all the different kind of studios that you have are actually more interconnected now. It's almost kind of like that beautiful silver lining in a way where people are getting more learning opportunities, which maybe not would have happened before. So that's really kind of awesome to hear. And it sounds like you guys have definitely found your groove, but yeah, I think it's everything, as you mentioned too, it's just going to keep shifting. Like as you kind of learn more and new things come up, you kind of adjust as best as you can and you kind of work with what you have. And yeah, it's just kind of great to hear that. Congratulations for your first kind of online performance. It sounds super exciting, and I hope there's many more in the future. But is there anyone else I'd like to share before we move on?
I can share a little bit.
Of course, go ahead.
So we can move on. Yeah, I can share. So we actually, like you mentioned, like many other organizations, were in full swing in-person programming when COVID hit. And so we had to go virtual back in March. And so we spent essentially like the spring semester, we operate on a semester basis. We spent the spring semester trying to figure out what that looked like. We took like a week off of programming. We just kind of shut down programming for about a week until we were able to gather together and do some brainstorming around what that would look like. And I mean, for us in the spring, it was, kind of lucky that we had already started, because that means our students had already had their equipment in hand. We provide all of our students with the DSLR camera at the beginning of the semester, and they keep that with them throughout the semester. So they had their cameras at home. They were just kind of like missing some equipment and some little bits of things that they would typically access through our site, like card readers and additional SD cards and things like that. And then, with the initial impact of COVID, one of the things that we learned was that, a lot of our students' families were heavily impacted, either with their health or, their jobs, their families' jobs, because a lot of them were like in service industries and things like that. So the first thing that we did actually is we kind of moved from our traditional fundraising to doing like a very specific fundraising campaign for our students. And we got the support of a particular community member to raise funds to provide gift cards for students to buy groceries. And then also to raise funds to purchase additional equipment so that students can continue programming at home. And so that was really helpful because, it's kind of like one of those things when you're able to find a little bit of just stability and security at home and able to provide, just a little bit of that for the families so that the students can continue to engage. We noticed that it did help. We did have some student drop off in the beginning, but we, for the most part, had a pretty good engagement afterwards. And throughout the spring semester and kind of how we are launching now, or we have launched now in the fall. So a couple of things that we've learned, like communication is definitely one of those things. Students have very different ways of communicating. There were some tools that we would use off and on in the past or before that we started using a lot more of. So we do, essentially we kind of like throw out the net for our communication now. So we send an email. We use a service called Club Texting to send out mass texts. We do everything on Google Drive. We use Google Forms. We have Google folders for all of our students. We've also converted a few pages on our website as like an interactive dashboard for our students so that they're able to access all the lesson plans, upload all their photographs. We still have our mentors and our teaching artists, teaching virtually. We're 100% virtual. So they connect with students on either Zoom or FaceTime or things like that. Our teaching artists also created their individual Instagram pages. A lot of our students are on Instagram. So they created individual Instagram pages for their classes. And so that's kind of like how teachers were able to share out, the photographs that students were taking as they were uploading. Then the teaching artists would take those photos and post them. And then it was actually a private, they were all private accounts, so they were only accessible to staff and mentors and the students. And so there'd be like feedback on that as well and saying like, I really love how you did this and that. And so I think being able to just kind of like permeate all these different avenues is really helpful for our student engagement. We now this coming semester weren't sure we were going to have a full like class, and we actually had to put students on our waiting list this semester. So we have about 75 students that we're working with, 76 students that we're working with this fall semester. We were also able to do a donation pickup for them. So there was actually 2 specific days where students came by appointment to pick up their camera bundles and their equipment and card readers and things like that. To students who didn't have a laptop access, we were able to lend out some of the laptops in our laptop library. We had a dozen or so of them that we were able to lend out. And then we're still currently fundraising to provide hotspots to some students who are having difficulty accessing like internet use. So we've been working with a couple of the community partners to be able to provide that as well. But for the most part, it's been, I think, just like I mentioned before, being able to connect with the students on like so many multiple different platforms, and then having the additional support of our mentors who are just continually engaging with their students throughout the semester has been really helpful to keep them, engaged and continuing to be a part of the lessons online.
Well, thank you for sharing, Lucia. That's kind of perfect because when we transition to the next, you've already started kind of touching on what we're going to talk about next. But I just wanted to say thank you again for sharing the comments about stability and security and environment. And you amongst other, grantee organizations really built in that kind of personal environment aspect into programming. So as you all transition to your virtual, you really took into account, the environments that these youth are going to be connecting from, kind of what are their needs outside of the actual curriculum, and like how does that impact in their engagement more so now that they're not able to actually come into a space and have that separation. So thank you for touching on that. And so this is a perfect transition into our second part that we want to talk about. For those who've already shared, you kind of already touched on this a little bit, but we just wanted to kind of look at, tips and tricks for maintaining online engagement, especially now that, school is back in session for a lot of young people. They're spending a lot of time online. People are still working from home. We're sharing spaces, and things are just kind of looking slightly different than maybe perhaps what summer had looked like. So what we wanted to kind of pose to you guys is what is one curriculum structure, approach, and or tool that has supported your team with maintaining online engagement? So kind of like if you had to give one recommendation, like what's that golden nugget, like the one thing you couldn't live without that like really supported your programming? And I know a lot has been shared already with some of the tools, but I'll open the floor to you guys.
I can share something. So are you asking for a specific tool, or one of the important things about our program, the Youth Arts Initiative, is youth voice. So they dictated the whole program, I would say. So being a good listener, I think, is a requirement for teaching artists, because that's what it really required, was really trying to tune into their needs. But I think specifically the North Star was youth voice, and making sure that I honored that, presenting them with some ideas, and hope that they would own that idea themselves. So I think that's important, is making sure that they get ownership of the project, because I think that they'll invest in it on their own time, because they're going to have to do that. And then supplying them with as many tools as we're able as an organization to supply. Internet, obviously the Adobe Suite, camera equipment, both photography and video. So it's a process. It was just a process. Again, I mentioned that not only we did video, we did murals. So, okay, we had to get buckets of paint. So it was really, I think, sort of like create a management plan, sort of like a production plan, pre-production, production, and post-production, that kind of mentality. But they have to buy in. It's got to be youth voice.
No, thank you. That I think everyone here would agree. Definitely, when things are youth-led and they feel like they can take that ownership and really lean into different roles and different leaderships and different places where they can kind of grow and develop, it definitely, as we were talking about earlier, kind of plays back into that engagement and kind of the excitement, enthusiasm around the work that they're doing, the skills that they're learning. I see, Gillian, you posted at Trello.com for those in the chat, if anyone hasn't used it before. Did you want to speak a little bit to that?
Sure. I think I mentioned it last time. So Trello, we used to use it even before the pandemic throughout all the programs. So basically it's sort of an online bulletin board that it helps for brainstorming, organizing projects. You can upload also all kinds of media. So what we did is when the pandemic started, we created a board that it's the Creative Art Package board. And so then you can have all these different cards within the board. And so we have, in that board, we have from, health and social resources to, art tutorials or media tutorials to references and inspiration. And then we also have board cards that they were separated by programs. So it's really useful because you can invite different members, and the members could be part of different cards as well. So it's quite dynamic the way it works. You can message each other. You can put even due dates for projects that you're doing. So it's, in addition to Zoom, which we use to connect virtually, Trello has been very helpful for communicating and utilizing, different type of media as a part of communication. And in addition, students could upload projects there too. So all around, pretty helpful.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you for kind of speaking a little bit more to that. Would anyone else like to share about any, approaches that they found have been useful or any tools that they've incorporated?
I can say something. Can you guys hear me?
Sure can.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just had the volume down. So this is Jamie Aquino with Haiti Ocean Project, and I just wanted to say that something that's been helpful for us, which I know this is probably something that we're all connected to, or we're all able to say that we do, is the communication aspect with the young people involved. So I know for me, I can't always be in Haiti, but Charlen's is in Haiti, and he was once one of these youths. I mean, when we were with Adobe Youth Voices, he was involved. So now he's like the older youth, so to speak. He's in his mid-20s. So he relates to them kind of on that level. They communicate on the phone a lot. He'll call them and say, okay, the next session is. It's just having that direct connection with them. If for some reason they're not at the session, he'll call them and say, why weren't you there? It's just that direct communication with the young people to the point where he's playing kind of that teacher role, and they're comfortable talking to him, and they open up about, what's going on if they don't understand something. I mean, yes, there's a lot of different tools and things, but I'm just talking about that basic comfortable level where the young people feel comfortable to talk, because, at the end of the day, we may be teaching them, but we also want to get feedback from them. Maybe some of them, something's too complicated for them, or things are going too fast, or they even have something in their personal lives that they can't participate this week. So I think for us, that's been really helpful, and it's given Charlen's the ability to oversee things better, understanding, well, okay, maybe this young person, doesn't understand this quite like the others, so maybe I need to give a one-on-one with him, that kind of thing. So that's just been kind of the basic communication stuff, but it's still something that's a factor at the end of the day to be, have that kind of level of comfortable communication talking with the young people. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you for that. It's definitely super important to create that rapport and those relationships between, mentors, teaching artists, program facilitators. I think it's a huge foundation. Like it's hard to actually implement curriculum and your program if you don't feel like you have that connection with the young creatives. So it's definitely, thank you for highlighting that. And there's different ways to do it. And I know it's looked maybe a little different over virtual programming, especially if you have new youth coming in. It might take a little longer versus, being able to meet in person. It's just a very different interaction. I just wanted to kind of, so Shadia also mentioned on the chat here, she put the link from Miro.com saying that it's great for virtual collaboration for brainstorming, project management, like storyboarding. So if you wanted to do almost like real-time kind of collaboration with the young people is really good. And then Lucia also said Adobe Spark. So it should also be part of your Creative Cloud that you guys have access to, but creating lesson plans on Spark and kind of having them live on, on the website. And then Tia also wrote, so urgent, providing blogging equipment to produce cross-cut short film projects, business pitches, use startup business commercials. That's definitely amazing. I think a few of you have talked about different types of kits, provided everything from technology that they might need to engage to, food vouchers, also to other different art materials, depending on what medium you guys are exploring. So definitely these are all fantastic tools and approaches, and we really appreciate you guys sharing them with one another. Does anyone else want to share just before we wrap up today?
Jessica, I would like to share something. I'm kind of new to this phone call. My name's Craig Knitt, and I'm part of the Youth Arts Initiative up in Green Bay as well. I am more of the visual arts than the filmmaking, But we just used Photoshop to finish this amazing graphic novel of more than 130-some pages, so that's pretty cool. And I've been making virtual videos for the kids to kind of continue their practices with that, where we're making a comic book based on their Corona life, what's happening during this pandemic. I am in the process right now of building an online virtual classroom. So I don't have a lot of experience about what is successful, but through Youth Arts Initiative, we've really learned that sense of belonging, and for the kids to have this sense of belonging, and for adults as well, frankly, but for them to have that is really important. So I'm approaching this with a golden ticket kind of idea, where as I deliver the graphic novels, because only 3 of those kids right now have their finished project, but as I'm delivering the projects, I'm also going to deliver a golden ticket invitation where they can be part of this online experience, this online classroom. And because I'm thinking, honestly, these kids are probably almost videoed out, or they probably have too much exposure already to screens. They don't want anything else. So unless we make something to make it special and stand out and fun, I think Alex would really accentuate that word a lot, because he is really all about having fun with what they're doing. That's what engages these youth. We can't give them candy through the screen. We can give them fun and give them a sense of belonging. So, and I'm looking at developing that, but also thinking about a way that they could invite a friend, so we could possibly have social connection, but also increase our population in some ways too. So those are things, and I really would reiterate on what the gal just said as far as building relationships. Oh my gosh, that's really the most important thing about keeping things flowing and going. And my name is Craig Knitt. I just wanted to get something in for you guys today.
Hi, Craig. Thank you so much for joining and for sharing that. That book looks phenomenal from what we could see. And
it's really cool.
Yeah, I honestly, videos are something that a few of our other cohort grantees have actually talked about too. It does take time. So, kudos to you and your teams for creating instructional videos and kind of producing that content. But yeah, definitely the key thing I heard was that sense of belonging. And I believe, each and every one of you are creating that atmosphere. And again, it's going to shift and change just like it would with in-person programming. But I'm definitely, yeah, it's just phenomenal to hear kind of like what everyone's been able to share and all the amazing things that have come out of it. And I think for the whole invite a friend thing, we do another one of our grantees, I believe in Cohort 1, when they first started their programming, it was the first time that their community actually grew, in the sense because siblings all of a sudden were like, what are you doing? Like, I want to see this. And so that model of kind of peer-to-peer, like, oh, like, come check this out. It's definitely worth kind of looking at, again, for that social connection, but also just to kind of keep expanding the community in the sense of those opportunities that are offered. All right. Just reading, Shadia also wrote a little note here. So yes, creating collaborative opportunities. And so I think a lot of you have been able to actually do that even using the software, because you're able to kind of live edit or kind of experience and explore and trade pieces at different versions and things like that. So she mentioned, Adobe Premiere, Audition, and Photoshop, in terms of being able to be innovative and give feedback and to kind of create with one another. So that's really wonderful to hear. I don't have anything else that I would like to add. Tanya, is there anything you would like to touch on? Before we kind of move into just wrapping up and speaking to the Adobe Project Grant status update, is there anything else that you guys would like to share before I move on? Okay. So, or anything else. So we can speak a little bit to the lovely email that I shouldn't say lovely, the email that we sent out to you guys, but also after that, if there's any, other questions that you have or things that you would just kind of like to share with your peers here, we will make space for that. But Tanya, I'll pass it over to you for a second.
So guys, the email that we send out, you know the news that the Adobe project grant is officially coming to an end of this year. This is the last cohort. Primary reason being the Adobe, the CSR team, is taking a new direction on how they're going to engage creative youth organizations like yourself. And from what it seems like it might be for the following year, just correct me if I'm wrong, it would be the software donations, and there's some other opportunities. And once their team has compiled that, those lists for us, we're going to share them with you as well. Thank you all for being such a great leader in this, the Creative Youth Organization Network, and help the network grow. And for with many of you, like Haiti Ocean Project, Stacey, Price, some they're not on this call right now, but we have been partners for like close to decades and in a network. And so as the organization for Taking It Global, this is all has been set for our team, but not really surprised once the foundation closed down with the CSR programs. Their goals are a bit different, so our programming structure doesn't really align with the overall mission of the CSR program at this moment. But at TIG as an organization, we do see there is a need in this area of community, and of course we are looking out for other opportunities that hopefully soon we'll have other programs or something else that where else we can come back together and connect and continue to work together. So Jess, do you want to add any words?
No, I just want to say, yeah, you know, Chani and I really enjoy the work that we do, and having this opportunity to connect with so many phenomenal creative youth organizations, and just hearing about the work that you guys are doing kind of frontline and hands-on with your youth. We'd love to support that. And just, yeah, unfortunately, things are going in a slightly different direction. You know, so you've received a few emails from us now, so we had that update. And then the most recent one, I just wanted to touch base on kind of the new timelines that we have, and just to kind of ease everyone a little bit. So our contract in partnership with Adobe officially ends November 30th. So originally, all of your reports were due, if your projects were summer intensive, they were due a little bit earlier. For those who had fall programming, they were initially due, you know, middle of December, at the end of the month. But for a few reasons, we are asking that all final reports are being submitted by November 15th. So one, you know, we want to kind of gather as much information as we can as possible, but two, we do have to provide our own final report as part of our contract with Adobe, and so we want to make sure that we have all of that necessary information. So speaking about kind of shifting the timelines, a few things in the report, we understand you guys might not have final numbers if your programming is still kind of in the process. So the first one will be the number of youth that you engage. And, you know, given, I don't even know what the word normal is anymore, but pre-COVID, there's always going to be, you know, fluxes in that. So sometimes there's drop-off, sometimes there's extra engagement. Given kind of current circumstances with the pandemic and all of the ongoing shifts and change, we understand that there's probably going to be even more flux in these numbers. So with that, if you can kind of guesstimate or provide like the best prediction you have for the approximate total number of youth that you feel like you will have engaged by the end of your program, that's all we're asking for. We understand, again, you really can't tell us until the program's done. And, you know, with the report being due November 15th, we don't want to rush you in finishing your program. The report is just kind of the admin side of things. Your programs, you know, if they're scheduled to finish at the end of December 2020 or even, you know, January 2021, please continue your programming as planned. Just for all of the questions, we're going to ask you to kind of write that narrative to the best of your ability with the knowledge that you have, which also goes into the financial report. So again, we're not asking that you have spent the entire $10,000 by November 15th. We understand that, you know, some of it goes towards facilitators and teaching artists, or even stipends for the youth, and that's kind of, you already have a plan for that. So with that, same to the number of youth that you've engaged, especially when we're talking numbers, we just want you to kind of, on the financial template that we attached, outline the allocation of where you're planning to put the money if you haven't spent a portion of it yet. So for everything that you have spent up until, November, beginning of November 15th, please obviously record that. And then if you still had remaining funds of the 10,000 that you were planning to use in December, just show us in that template where that money is going and write a narrative note saying that, during December or, the rest of second half of November, the money will be kind of given and delved out then. We're kind of trusting you guys that you will use the funds the way that you say you're going to. We just kind of want like the best case scenario in terms of those reporting. Tanya, did I miss anything?
No, the last thing we want is to like rush a program and not be happy with what you guys doing or like not be happy with the end product. Our goal is just to make sure that you guys get the remaining of the grant funding before November 30th. And because of that, we need something in documentation that you guys submitted the final report. Once you have completed the program, you're more than happy. We're welcome you to share any updates, any media pieces, any highlights, so that we can continue to highlight those within our network. So Jeff, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I don't think so. As if we get any more information, even just about, future Adobe opportunities, and specifically around Creative Cloud, as I mentioned before, that program is, transitioning, but we didn't include that as part of the project grant because there are quite a few other recipients and we're still in the process of trying to understand what that transition looks like. So please don't worry about that. I will be in touch probably in the next month and a bit with more details regarding your software, just so that you guys are set up, for another 12 months and renewals after that. But I'd like to open the floor. Are there any questions about kind of the admin tasks that we've asked in that email? I think the other thing we mentioned, we gave a bit of an earlier deadline for that, is 2 media pieces. And so I just briefly, as we have you guys here, one thing that we've been kind of compiling is a kind of virtual program delivery toolkit. And so based on all of the learning that we've done through having you guys as grantees, so not only we want to summarize and highlight the amazing work that you've done as great examples of how people can deliver virtual programming, we also would like to highlight some of the media that you guys have done in another forum and stuff. So I believe probably within 2 weeks, I think, Tanya, is mid-October. If you could send those media pieces first, and then if there's any other questions that come up about the reports, if you'd want to have a one-on-one call or you have any specific as the weeks come, Tanya and I are more than happy to kind of answer those as we go. But I believe that's it. I don't have anything else I have to say.
I included a link to the graphic novel for a digital version for anybody to check out, but I'm going to give you a fair warning. You might want to take your socks off before you start looking at it because it'll blow your socks off otherwise. Yeah.
Thank you, Craig. I can see it here, and I'm really excited to take a look at it.
Can I ask some questions?
Yep.
Sorry, I'm Shani Nelson from Erdy with Miami, Florida. You had mentioned something about media. Wasn't clear the reference. Is that part of the final report that we would be able to share some media content that was produced by the young people? Was I understanding that correct?
Yeah, so part of the final report, we do require for you guys to kind of upload and share some of the media pieces that were produced as part of the project grant. And then if there is anything else that you would like to highlight, either we'll take from that those pieces that you share in the report, or if there's other pieces you'd like to also send. We're just hoping to kind of include that in the resource toolkit, which you guys will also get a copy of before the end of the program.
Perfect. Are there any format requirements or size requirements of file?
No, I think it's, we kind of trust you guys. I'll produce really beautiful, high quality media. I think the only thing that we've asked is that they are all in image format. So for the report, if there's videos and podcasts and anything audio that you guys have created, please upload for that. But for the resource book, we are going to just stick with images so that if we do decide to print or something like that, we don't have any issues with that.
Thank you.
No problem. Are there any other questions? Okay, well, if anything does come up, as I said before, please feel free to just email Tanya and I. We're more than happy to hop on a call if you prefer that, or we can just answer any questions over email. But just want to say thank you for taking the time to connect today and to kind of share just how your projects and programs are going and all the different tools. And I really love these spaces that we're able to kind of connect and do that peer-to-peer learning, just as you do with your young people. So. All right. Well,
thank you.
No problem. It is Friday, so I'm going to let you go. Maybe not as early as I thought, but great conversation, and you guys have a lovely weekend.
You as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.